you tune into the show because you're constantly looking for that next lever to pull in your career.
Right.
You want to understand the actual architecture of success so you can apply it to whatever it is you actually do.
Yeah, exactly.
And today, we have this massive stack of source. I mean, we're talking everything from event industry growth blueprints to like these really deep psychological dives on career pivots.
It's a lot of material.
It is. And it's all focused on this one incredibly radical transition. We are looking at what it takes to take a highly emotional, creatively driven business and, pivot into this structured corporate powerhouse.
Which is not easy.
No, not at all. Specifically, we're looking at the complete growth guide for event professionals who are trying to transition from the wedding industry into corporate event partnerships.
It's such a fascinating leap to look at because, I mean, we aren't talking about a comfortable lateral move here.
Right.
It's not like, you sell shoes, so you decide to start selling socks.
Yeah.
That's just math. This is a complete translation of worlds. Our mission for this deep dive is to really explore the mechanics of how you execute this pivot. And we want to look at it both tactically and, honestly, psychologically.
Because it's huge. And if you're listening to this right now and thinking, well, I don't plan weddings.
Stick with us.
Exactly. Stick with us. Because buried in this specific industry transition are these really universal lessons. It's about how anyone in any field can take their existing skills and sort of repackage them to tap into a much more lucrative, consistent market.
That's the key. Repackaging.
Yeah. And to make this shift, before a business can even think about changing its marketing or updating its website, the business owner has to fundamentally rewire their own mindset.
Oh, 100%.
Our sources make it so clear that transitioning from a mindset of like I do,
With the wedding mindset.
right, the wedding mindset, moving from that to a mindset of return on investment or ROI is basically the primary bottleneck.
Well, the bottleneck exists because the fundamental success metrics of these two worlds are just completely opposed. I mean, think about the nature of a wedding.
Very emotional.
Highly emotional. It is bound by family dynamics, personal dreams, tradition. The entire currency is emotion.
Yeah.
The stakes are usually framed as, this is the happiest day of my life.
And the pressure there is immense, but it's an intensely emotional pressure. I mean, you are managing a bride, a groom, and maybe a highly anxious mother-in-law.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Contrast that with corporate events. These are strategic operations. The goal isn't a tearful toast, right?
No.
The goal is achieving a very specific, measurable business outcome. So we're talking about brand visibility or launching a new product line or even just driving employee retention.
Right. There's a tangible goal.
Yeah. And the decision-making process involves teams, multiple stakeholders, and these highly structured procurement cycles.
It makes me think of an analogy. Transitioning to corporate is almost like a writer switching from writing poetry, which is the weddings, to writing a persuasive essay. Oh, that's a perfect way to look at it.
Right, because both of them require immense skill with words. But the ultimate goal and the audience's rubric for what makes it successful are completely different.
They're entirely different rubrics. The underlying tool set is the same. You still know how to write, or in this case, plan an event. But you are moving from a B2C model business to consumer to a B2B model, which is business to business.
And B2B changes everything.
It changes everything because in B2B, you have to justify the budget to a finance department. They want to see a projected return on investment. The corporate buyer, honestly, they do not care if the napkins are pretty.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they care if the networking environment those napkins sit in will generate enough leads to justify a $50,000 catering bill.
Exactly. And I'm looking at the why behind this transition in our sources, and it really comes down to timeline and frequency. Weddings are largely seasonal.
Very seasonal.
And by definition, hopefully they are one-time events. So you are constantly, relentlessly hunting for new clients. You're always starting at zero. But corporate clients, they offer repeat business throughout the entire fiscal year.
Right.
I mean, think about a mid-sized tech company. They might host a quarterly all-hands meeting, an annual user conference, a holiday party, and 3 product launches in a single year.
Wow. Yeah.
So cracking this code provides incredibly consistent revenue streams. You get scalability and you get access to these high-value professional networks. But it requires the professional to realize Their core value proposition has shifted.
You aren't selling the fairy tale anymore.
No, you are no longer selling magic. You are selling the ability to execute a complex logistical operation so the marketing director doesn't get fired.
You're selling risk mitigation.
Exactly. You're selling risk mitigation.
But, shifting your internal mindset doesn't magically update your public perception.
Unfortunately not.
Right. Like if you walk into a corporate meeting talking about risk mitigation and ROI, but then they go look at your website and it's just covered in cursive fonts and watercolor flowers and pictures of white dresses.
Yeah, that's a problem.
There is a massive cognitive dissonance for the buyer there.
The visual mismatch is fatal.
Yeah.
A corporate buyer will look at that and immediately assume you just don't understand their world.
Yeah.
This requires a total external rebrand. You really have to translate your toolkit so the corporate decision maker actually recognizes you as a peer. And the sources outline this 3-step blueprint for this rebrand, which starts with updating the portfolio.
Right. And I was looking at this step and thinking, well, this is a classic chicken and egg problem.
Oh, completely.
Because how do you show a corporate HR director that you can manage a sleek, modern tech summit if your entire portfolio is just rustic barn weddings?
You can.
But the Growth Guide has this fascinating tactical workaround for this, which is using styled shoots, or basically mock corporate setups.
Yeah, and it solves that perception gap instantly. Because, let's be honest, corporate buyers often lack the imagination to look at a beautiful wedding table setting and mentally translate it into a corporate gala.
They just can't see it.
They can't. They need to see their own brand language reflected back to them. So if you don't have a real product launch to show them, you stage one.
You literally fake it.
Well, you rent a modern industrial space, you bring in sleek acrylic furniture, you set up corporate branding elements, and you photograph it professionally. You are essentially manufacturing tangible proof of your design range.
So you are faking the client, but you are not faking the competence.
Exactly.
The design skills, the spatial awareness, the lighting, that's all real. You're just changing the subject of the photo to match the search intent of the buyer.
That's a great way to put it. And that concept of search intent leads directly into the second and third steps of the rebrand, which are refining your messaging and completely overhauling your SEO strategy.
Because the search terms are totally different.
Night and day. A bride searches Google for, romantic vineyard wedding inspiration.
Yeah.
An HR director is searching for corporate retreat event management in Chicago.
Right, so the vocabulary just has to change.
Yeah.
The sources actually suggest aggressively stripping away words like dream and forever and magical.
Get rid of all of them.
And you replace them with efficiency, turnkey solutions, and measurable impact.
Yes.
But wait, I want to challenge this hard for a second.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of a creative professional here. If I strip away all the emotional storytelling, all those beautiful narratives from my brand, won't I just become incredibly cold and boring?
Well,
I mean, isn't boundless creativity the actual superpower of an event planner? Think about Apple or Mikey. They throw the most successful corporate events in the world specifically because they use emotional storytelling.
they do, yeah.
So if I start sounding like a boring efficiency robot, aren't I just shooting myself in the foot?
It's a really fair question. And honestly, that pushback you just gave is the single most common reason creative professionals fail at this transition.
Really?
Yeah, because you are conflating the product with the packaging.
Okay, unpack that.
So Apple and Nike use immense creativity, absolutely. But the logistical machine running those events is a fortress of operational competence. Results-driven does not equal boring.
Right.
It just means you have to learn to speak the language of the person who is holding the checkbook.
So I'm essentially using operational competence as a Trojan horse to sneak my creativity into their boardroom.
Precisely. That is exactly it. A corporate client wants a spectacular, mind-blowing event. They really do. But before they can hire you for your brilliant creative vision, the procurement officer needs to know that you are reliable enough to manage a $500,000 budget without missing a single beat.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The creativity is still the engine, right? But professionalism, efficiency, ROI, those are the packaging that the engine must be sold in. Because if the packaging looks risky, they won't even test drive the car.
Wow, okay. That distinction really clarifies the whole strategy for me. So the storefront now looks right. The SEO is dialed in to catch those specific B2B Google searches, and the portfolio proves you speak their visual language.
Step one complete.
Right. But building a great website doesn't just automatically put clients in your calendar.
I wish it did.
Same. But corporate decision makers aren't exactly spending their weekends strolling through bridal expos, so we have to shift from passive branding to basically active infiltration of their ecosystem.
The hustle mechanics change entirely here. In the wedding industry, you rely so heavily on vendor referrals and social media aesthetics, the beautiful Instagram feed.
Right.
But in the corporate world, you must actively target the decision makers where they actually physically and digitally congregate.
Yeah.
You need to be at Chamber of Commerce meetings, industry trade shows, corporate networking events.
But I assume we aren't just walking into those rooms trying to hand our business card to the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, right?
Definitely not. The CEO is rarely the one planning the quarterly sales retreat.
Yeah.
You are looking for the boots on the ground who are actually tasked with executing company culture and brand initiatives. That means you want to find the HR managers, the marketing directors, and the internal corporate event coordinators. They are your gatekeepers.
Okay. And the digital equivalent of that Chamber of Commerce meeting is LinkedIn.
Oh, absolutely.
Our sources heavily emphasize treating LinkedIn not just as an online resume, but as an active publishing platform. Like,
Yeah.
it's not enough to just update your title to corporate event specialist.
No, anyone can do that.
Right. You have to signal that you are an industry insider by actually sharing content on corporate event trends.
Yes. You need the HR manager who happens to be browsing LinkedIn on their lunch break to perceive you as a thought leader in their specific problem space.
Yeah.
And this is really where the strategy of cold outreach comes in, which, by the way, paralyzes a lot of creative professionals.
Oh, I bet. It's intimidating.
It is. But the golden rule provided by the growth guide here is so simple. Pitch solutions, not services.
Let's break down the mechanics of that, because honestly, I think it's brilliant. It's the difference between sending an email that just says, hi, I'm a great event planner, here's my pricing guide.
Which gets deleted immediately.
Exactly. Versus doing deep research on a specific company. Let's say you find out a local tech firm just shifted to a fully remote work model. You go find their HR director on LinkedIn and you pitch a very specific solution to a problem they are definitely currently having.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
You reach out and you say something like, look, I see your workforce has gone 100% remote over the last year. My agency specializes in designing immersive 3-day team-building summits that solve the exact employee disconnection and retention issues that remote companies face.
Wow.
And then you say, here's a case study of how we did exactly this for a similar firm.
It just completely flips the power dynamic. You aren't a vendor begging for a gig anymore.
Not at all.
You are stepping in as a strategic consultant, diagnosing a pain point and offering a lifeline. It's like you're going into a job interview and instead of listing your skills, you're telling them exactly how you're going to make their Friday afternoons significantly less stressful.
Exactly. That approach is the master key to unlocking corporate budgets. And honestly, all your marketing strategies should reinforce that authority.
Right.
So content marketing, maybe writing blogs about how spatial design at a conference directly impacts lead generation, or running email campaigns that offer actionable tips for internal HR teams. You are just constantly reinforcing this narrative that you are a highly capable problem solver.
Okay, so you've optimized the LinkedIn, you've identified the trigger event at a local company, you pitched the brilliant solution to the HR director, and you landed the contract.
The hard part's over.
Right. Well, no, now you have to actually deliver the goods. You have to adapt the physical service you provide to this entirely new environment, and you have to somehow fend off the established competition.
And the execution phase here leaves zero room for error, because corporate grace periods are virtually non-existent.
Yeah, I imagine they are much less forgiving.
Oh, completely. I mean, a bride might forgive a late caterer if you smooth it over with enough champagne, right?
Sure.
A corporate marketing director will not forgive a late caterer if it delays the keynote speech from their lead sponsor.
Ouch. Yeah.
It's just a different level of stakes. So the sources emphasize creating very customized packages tailored for specific corporate needs.
So I'm guessing a generic day of coordination package just doesn't translate here at all.
No.
In a corporate setting, they probably need you to own the entire life cycle of the event.
They demand comprehensive architecture. You aren't just offering to, help out on the day. You are offering a complete product launch blueprint.
Right.
You manage the vendor load-in, the audiovisual union contracts, the sponsor branding placements, the flow of the press line. You handle the entire logistical nightmare so that the internal marketing team can actually focus on doing their jobs, talking to the press and the attendees.
Which perfectly ties back to the need for formal communication and really structured contracts.
Mhm.
Corporate clients want to see detailed project management timelines.
They want spreadsheets.
They love spreadsheets. They want to see exactly how you are mitigating risk at every single step, because ultimately, the internal employee who hired you, like that HR director, they are putting their own reputation on the line.
Yes.
If the event fails, it's their job on the line.
Exactly. And to mitigate your own risk as a transitioning professional, the guide strongly advises starting small.
Okay.
Because the friction of breaking into this market is very real. Do not pitch a global tech giant for your first corporate gig.
Right, don't start with Apple.
No. Target local, mid-sized businesses or maybe well-funded startups. Build your portfolio, gather actual corporate testimonials, and just adapt to the formality of the environment gradually.
Well, that brings up something I really have to ask. It's kind of the elephant in the room question here.
Okay.
Because we've talked a lot about how to act corporate and how to pitch corporate. But how does a solo planner or even just a small creative team possibly compete against those massive established corporate event agencies?
The big guys.
Yeah, the ones with hundreds of employees who just do this all day, every day. It feels like an impossible David versus Goliath scenario.
From the outside, it absolutely looks that way. It's
Yeah.
intimidating.
Yeah.
But the sources reveal this really profound secret weapon for the smaller teams.
What is it?
It's the combination of creativity and highly personalized service. So let's look at the operational reality of those massive corporate agencies you mentioned.
Okay.
Because of their sheer size and overhead,
Yeah.
they have to operate on volume. They basically become factories.
Ah, so they are just churning out the exact same generic ballroom gala with the exact same blue lighting and the exact same dry chicken dinner week after week
Yes.
because it's efficient for their bottom line.
Exactly that. They plan for the crowd. But a former wedding professional, they've been rigorously trained to plan for the individual.
Oh, wow.
Right. They understand the concept of micro experiences. They know exactly how the texture of the linen feels, how the lighting needs to shift the mood in the room at exactly 8:25 p.m., and how to seamlessly transition a guest from one emotional state to another.
And that intense focus on the nuanced guest journey is something the volume-based agencies simply cannot scale.
They can't. Your competitive advantage isn't that you have more resources than the giant agency. It's that you have a completely different operational DNA.
Yeah.
You are bringing a boutique, highly bespoke service into a corporate space that has honestly been starved of genuine hospitality for decades.
Right, corporate events are famously dry.
Exactly. So that granular attention to detail, that is exactly how David beats Goliath every single time.
That insight really flips the entire narrative. It means your background in highly personal, emotionally charged events isn't some liability you have to hide.
Not at all.
Once it's packaged correctly, it is actually your greatest competitive weapon.
Yes. And looking at the entire journey, I think it perfectly illustrates the mechanics of adaptability. We started with the internal shift, right? Moving from emotional storytelling to a ruthless focus on ROI and risk mitigation.
Yeah. And then we looked at the external rebrand, dealing with the cognitive dissonance of your visual portfolio by, staging those styled shoots to fake the corporate experience.
Right. And then we broke down the active hustle of infiltrating the B2B ecosystem, finding the specific pain points of HR and marketing directors, and pitching targeted solutions rather than just generic services.
And finally, understanding how to leverage your unique background in those micro experiences to completely outmaneuver the entrenched volume-based competition.
It's a complete roadmap, and it proves that transferable skills, whether that's complex project management, spatial design, or high-stakes communication, they can always be repackaged for a new market.
Always. It is a phenomenal blueprint for anyone looking to break out of their current constraints. And it leaves you, the listener, with one final lingering question to kind of turn over in your mind today. Look at your own current skill set. You know exactly what you do right now, and you know the exact audience you usually do it for. But if you took those exact same skills, stripped away the current aesthetics, and completely translated your vocabulary to focus on a completely different metric of success, what entirely different, highly lucrative industry might desperately need exactly what you already have?